Hello, and today I'm going to show you how to build a working Lego pinball machine. This is a fully playable minifigure scale game where you'll need to test your skills to dodge the obstacles and avoid falling into the hole. This is an all new and improved design based on my classic Lego pinball machine. And as you can see, this updated model makes use of some brand new parts and building techniques to create a much sleeker and more refined profile. I've completely overhauled the original mechanism with a more robust pinball launcher, along with springier, more responsive flippers for the ultimate control and reactivity. The pinball machine also includes an integrated base, which helps to disguise the mechanism underneath and makes it easier for you to build it into your own Lego creations. It's really easy to reload. All you have to do is drop the ball into the launcher, pull back on the plunger and release it to start your game of pinball. Then it's up to you to use your skills, and you'll need to be quick, otherwise it will fall down into the hole. This is a great addition to your Lego arcades and fairgrounds, so let's get started and take a look at how to build it. This is quite a complex model, so we'll build it in 3 parts. And here are all the pieces you're going to need to build the first part. And I'll leave timestamps in the video description so you can skip to the other parts of the build. So once you've collected your pieces, we can begin with 2 1x5 plates stacked on top of each other, along with 2 1x2 plates with the bars on them, and they will clip just underneath. Then we can flip that over and attach a 2x3 plate to the back there, along with a 1x2 brick just in the gap like that. And then we can secure all of that in place with another 2x3 plate, this time in the same colour as the top of your pinball machine. Then we can fill in the gaps on either side of that 2x3 with a 1x2 and a 1x1 plate. And now we can build the next part using a 1x3 plate and a 1x1 inverted bracket, along with a 2x2 bracket next to that, and a 1x2 plate on the other side. And on this 1x2 plate, make sure to clip a 1x1 tile on the end, and that will be very important later on. And then on either side we can just fill in the gap with a couple of 1x1 plates on either side to build that up to the correct height. And then you can add 2 1x3 plates at the back there just to finish off each of the sides. And now this whole structure can be assembled to the other bit which we built earlier, and that should all just clip into place and secure onto that other bit nicely. So next we'll build the tabletop of the pinball machine, which will use this 1x2 Technic axle brick, along with a regular 1x1 brick on the side of that, and a 1x1 headlight brick next to that piece, also sticking up in this direction. And then we can fill in the gap with a 1x2 plate on this side and a second 1x2 Technic axle brick in the middle. Now for these side bits, I've decided to make it a little bit more interesting. Rather than just having a plain solid colour, I've included some brick built stripes, which are basically made out of these 1x1 plates stacked up in different colours. And you can see I'm using different shades of blue to create a gradual fade effect with the 1x1 plates. And then you can secure them with this 1x4 plate just before the end. And I think this just adds a bit of variety and makes the surface of the pinball machine a little bit more interesting, and just gives it a bit of a pop of colour. And then we can finish it off with a last set of 1x1 plates to cover up the coloured ones, and then a 1x2 curved slope piece to go in the middle, and that will be where the pinballs will roll down into the collection tray. So now let's build the flippers that go on the end of the table, and these will use a 1x1 Technic brick along with a 1x1 plate, and then flip that on the side and just slide through a 1x3 Technic axle along with these really cool Technic panels which look just like the real thing and go perfectly for this pinball machine. And then just slide in some 1x1 gears to clip those into place. And do the same but the opposite way around to build the flipper on the other side. And now with both of your flippers assembled, they quite simply just clip onto the end of that tabletop surface which we built earlier. And to finish this bit off, you can add these little light up obstacles just to clip into those pieces with the holes in them. And you can see they look really cool and give you an extra little thing to dodge as you're playing the pinball. Finally, we can finish off this part by building the base of the pinball machine, which will just be a simple construction of a 1x4 brick, a 1x1 brick with the bar attachment on the end, and another one on the opposite side, along with a couple of extra 1x4 bricks on the end, and finally a 1x4 plate to build out the length to the correct height. And we can attach one of these small Lego Technic rubber bands just underneath there. And this whole thing can be clipped to the bottom of the rest of the pinball machine. So just make sure that's all secured in place. And the first part of our pinball machine is now complete. Here are all the pieces you're going to need to build the next part, which will include the pinball launching mechanism. So to build that, we can begin with two of our 1x1 modified bricks stacked on top of each other, along with a regular 1x1 brick stacked on top of that. And if you flip that around to this side, then you'll need to attach a regular 1x2 brick along with two 1x1 cone pieces on the remaining studs. And now before we build the next bit, this is where you're going to want to slide your Technic rubber band piece so it's just resting on the two cones, and actually you can bring it down a little bit just like that. And next we'll secure that in place with a 1x4 plate. And now we can attach our 1x2 plate. I'm using this very funky transparent blue colour which looks very cool. And again, for a bit of extra decoration, I've gone for this printed 1x1 tile with this arrow design, but of course you can use a plain one if you want. And then we can attach a 1x1 Technic hole brick over on this side, along with a 1x3 tile over on the top. And now to build the plunger that will actually fire the pinball into the machine, we'll use a 1x5 Technic axle along with a couple of Technic half bushes to provide a place to grip the plunger on the end. And then you can slide this Technic piece through to roughly just over halfway, so you've got about a 1 stud gap on this side. And this can be attached to this bit we built earlier, so all you need to do is just loop the rubber band through this red Technic piece and then pull that back and then slide that axle through to the end. And there you go, you've got a really nice and springy compact pinball plunger that's ready to install in your pinball machine. There's just a few other bits we need to build first, including this front panel which will use a 1x5 plate along with two 1x4 tiles and a 1x4 plate at the back of that. And then you can fill in the gap at the top with a 2x2 tile and a 1x3 tile just loose on the end there. And then for the controls that will control the pinball flippers, we'll use these 1x5 plates with the Technic holes in the end, and that's just because they're rounded so it's a bit smoother to slide it in and out of the machines. And these 1x4 Technic gear rack pieces which will interact with the 1x1 gears that we have inside of the machine. And now we can join everything that we've built together. So first, starting with the handles and the rest of the pinball machine. So with these, just basically line up both of the gear racks and then slide them in. Make sure that the flippers are both aligned in the same direction. And they should slide in and sit roughly about in this position once they're in place. And that way you can see when you push in on those gears, they activate the little Technic gears on the bottom and move them, and in turn move the pinball flippers on the top. So next we can add our launcher mechanism, and you can see that will neatly clip into place on the side, just onto that 1x1 Technic plate on the bottom. And now to secure everything in place over on the front, this is where we can take our front panel, and that will just slide over the end of that handle, and you might need to push in the hands just to get the flippers to go in a little bit, just until it's all clipped into place at least. And then just make sure that's all secured down into place on the bottom. And with this plunger, you can see currently it's gone a little bit too far inwards, so just push that outwards if that happens. So the end result is that the end of that plunger sits just behind that 1x3 tile. So everything's looking good, and just check that everything can be activated and works nice and smoothly. But if there's no more final adjustments to make, we can now move on and build the rest of the pinball machine. Here are the rest of the pieces you'll need to finish your pinball machine. And this time we'll start with the base, which will use this large 6x10 plate and a 1x10 plate. And you can join those together with some 1x4 tiles on either end. And we're basically going to build a border out of these tiles. So add some 1x3 tiles over there, and some 1x8 tiles on either side of that, along with some very important 1x1 clip pieces, just clipped horizontally like that, and that will be where we attach the rest of the pinball machine to. Then next up we can build the backboard. So this will use a 1x3 plate along with two 1x1s stacked on top of that, and a 1x1 tile in the centre. Then you can also attach a couple of 1x1 headlight bricks pointing outwards, along with some 1x2 inverted slope pieces sticking out on either of the sides. And we can clip some 1x8 tiles to the end of that. Now to build the backboard itself, this will use a bunch of transparent pieces to create the appearance that it lights up and has a neon glow to it. So we'll start off by building two columns of these 1x1 bricks with a 1x1 plate in the centre. And then for the middle bit, we're basically just going to stack two sets of these 1x1 transparent plates up on top of each other, and then sandwich a 1x1 modified brick with a stud on the side in the middle. And this is where we can attach our 2x2 printed tile, which in this case includes this funky space age design. And we can join all of those side bits together with a nice 1x3 tile that secures everything in place. And this can be clipped to the middle of a 1x5 rounded plate. And now all that's left to do to finish the decoration is to build some stacks of lights, which is a really cool technique. Basically I'm using some varying colours of transparent 1x1 round studs stacked up in simple tubes, and you can see that variation in the colours makes it look as if it's got a pattern of lights which is jumping up and down, or at least has some movement to it. And that's all achieved just with some static pieces, which look especially good with the contrast of the blue sides around it. And then finally, to finish that off, we can cap off the ends on the top with some of these half rounded 1x1 tiles. And that can simply clip to the top of the side bit that we built earlier. And now with all three parts complete, all that's left to do is to clip them together. So this backboard simply clips into that 1x3 gap along the back there, and that should neatly slot into place. And then the whole pinball machine can be clipped onto these two clips on the base to give it a nice angle and allow you to integrate this into your own Lego models. And for the pinball itself, I'm just using this stainless steel ball bearing. I'll leave a link to where you can get this in the description below, but you could also use a Lego stud or a rounded tile instead, which would still function, but obviously wouldn't roll as well. So now all that's left to do is to test it out and play a game of pinball. I hope you enjoyed building it, and if you did, please give this video a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let me know what you thought of this working pinball machine in the comments. I've got a whole series of working how to build creations, so check out the full playlist, which will be linked in the description, and I'll see you guys next time with even more awesome Lego creations. Thanks for watching.